Early life trauma affects brain development of children. Psychologists call it adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. ACEs have shown to actually change the actual way child's genes are activated, affecting what geneticists call the epigenetics of the child. This literally changes how their genes develop key structures of the brain. In particular, one area we're going to talk about is called the amygdala. In trauma-damaged children, the amygdala grows larger. The amygdala is a small pea-sized area of the brain that controls the fight-or-flight nervous system. Okay, it's what directs your body and alerts your body to danger. If there's a critical danger in your area, your amygdala will sound the alarm and it will activate the pituitary gland, sending a cascading of hormones. One of them is epinephrine, right to the adrenal gland, which also stimulates cortisol, another stress response. So this causes the fight or flight nervous system to activate. This is a critical area of the brain. Due to the nature of our brain development as children, when this happens in early life trauma, this literally creates larger amygdalas. So children with larger amygdalas are going to be more likely to react to stress in the future. They are more likely to have aberrant stress responses. They have what's called a hypersympathetic neural drive, which means they will likely respond with more anger and more aggressiveness, or more withdrawal and more scaredness than the average person. So they will have higher frequency responses to early life, to future traumas. They will also be more likely to suffer what's called the amygdala hijack. Okay, if you understand the stress response, what happens is in the brain needs to focus on what it needs to keep functioning to survive. Well, you don't need to do the quadratic equation to get out away from a tiger that's trying to chase you, right? You have to get the heck out of Dodge. You have to run very quickly. So your heart rate's going to increase, your breathing rate's going to increase, your blood pressure's going to increase, your digestion's going to decrease. Why? Because you don't need the food in your stomach to provide energy. It's going to take too long for it to get there anyways. You need immediate food, so your digestion decreases. Also in the brain, what happens is the brain will shut down higher function and focus the brain on the reptilian structure of the brain. Okay, this is called the reptilian structure, the deeper core areas of the brain that regulate these fight or flight nervous system responses. So what ends up happening is, during amygdala hijack, the frontal lobe will shut down, and this person may react very, very strongly and aggressively and very angrily in areas that they would not normally. They may have, if they had more clear foresight, they would have been able to prevent their reaction over overreaction. This is how you meet somebody and you think they're a great guy, and then all of a sudden they do something horrible, like fly off the handle and hurt their wife, or do something to a child, something that you would never expect this person to do. This is amygdala hijack, and a lot of times this can be traced back to early life trauma. So this creates a positive feedback loop in trauma. This is how cycles of trauma repeat. And when this is coupled with denial, which is the inability of the victim to admit the extensiveness of the harm, or to how extensive this harm is, or even that they were harmed, especially in early life trauma, it's very hard for children to admit maybe that their parents hurt them, or that doctors hurt them, or that they were hurt by society. So this is a very, very bad thing to do to children. What is one of the worst ACEs that you could possibly imagine? Well, I could imagine that if you took a hammer and you smashed a children's fingers, that would be very, very painful. And that would be a very extreme ACE. That's because there's nerves in the fingers. What other areas of the body are there nerves in? Well, we know there's areas of the body that there are nerves in as adults. We're very aware of those areas of the body that we have nerves in, right? We don't have to tell you the bottom of your feet, your hands, and other areas, private areas, right? Those areas are sensitive. So, of course, cutting them, clamping them with knives, ripping them apart to separate the balano-prepubital lamina to open the glands from the prepuce from the glands, which is one of the most extreme, excruciating things that you could possibly do to another person. It's excruciating and painful. And this happens at the critical period. The earlier in life the trauma happens, the worse the repercussions. Just like the earlier in a trajectory of an asteroid it is hit by another object, the influence on the present day outcome. Okay, so if you hit an object earlier in its lifetime, its present position is going to be much greater change than it would have been if it had been hit by the same object later in life. This just makes sense. Anyways, this is very important, that we stop hurting children and that we end the violent attack of knives on our children's most sensitive areas of their bodies. It is absolutely disgusting and outrageous that we're doing this to children. This is creating damage to our society that is undiscovered and untold, and will be yet for future generations to unpack this and really uncover why and how this happens to society and how we can stop this and prevent it from ever happening again.